Yuki Tsunoda and Liam Lawson certainly had their moments in the spotlight during the Japanese Grand Prix qualifying session. But the fact that the new Red Bull driver, Tsunoda, qualified lower than the demoted Lawson raised a lot of eyebrows. The second qualifying session for Tsunoda went completely wrong, and it now seems that the car issues are here to stay for a while. It makes us wonder, is the curse of the second seat still haunting Red Bull? And if so, what comes next for the team? There's no denying that Red Bull faced a nightmare scenario with Tsunoda. The Japanese driver failed to get past Q2, ending up in P15, while his teammate Lawson managed to secure P14. Even though both results were disappointing and lack any real significance, there's something telling about the fact that both of the Racing Bulls cars finished ahead of Tsunoda, especially Lawson's teammate Hajar. He not only made it into Q3 but qualified P7, ahead of Hamilton. This speaks volumes about the fact that the Faenza-based squad clearly has a better platform to work with. Red Bull's attention to detail did not go unnoticed, especially when it came to team dynamics. It was hard to ignore the fact that Tsunoda ended up qualifying behind Lawson. In response to the situation, team principal Christian Horner mentioned, "It's a shame. He went in a bit too hot at turn 1, and that set him back for the rest of the lap. Up to that point, I think he actually did quite well." He also added, "I'm pleased to see Liam settling in well with the Racing Bulls." If we take a closer look at Tsunoda's flying lap in Q2, it's clear that he struggled to get the perfect start. He had to make adjustments even before his lap really began, which didn't help his cause. The pressure was intense for Tsunoda, as he was expected to deliver a solid lap, particularly because he had used soft tires before his final attempt to salvage what he could from the RB21. At the time, he was 6.1 seconds behind Verstappen, but he managed to stay within 1.3 tenths of a second of his teammate before Q2. However, when it really mattered, the pace just wasn't there. When Tsunoda spoke about his unexpected exit from Q2, he admitted, "Q1 felt pretty good, but I just missed the window. I think the window for this car is very narrow, and for the warm-up, almost everything has to be perfect, especially the warm-up and the second run in Q2. I wasn't able to get the warm-up I wanted, so that made a big difference in the end. It was a lesson learned, something I recognized in Q2, but it was a bit too late." He added that the red flag also disrupted his momentum. While a red flag impacts all drivers, when you're dealing with a car that operates within such a tight window, it's easy to lose your rhythm. This was a particularly frustrating moment for Tsunoda, who started the season under pressure, being the slowest driver in Red Bull's family on his home turf. Yet it seemed like his car was quite different from the others on the track, raising some serious questions for Red Bull. Why did they set it up this way? Before the weekend, it was clear that Tsunoda's car would have a less aggressive setup, which was reflected in the larger rear wing, offering more downforce. This meant that Tsunoda's car would be slower, but more stable and predictable to drive. However, despite the stability provided by the higher downforce, Tsunoda still struggled. When the pressure was on, he couldn't put together a strong lap on the fresh soft tires, improving his time by just 1.5 tenths of a second compared to his previous run. According to F1 commentator Ted Kravitz, the issue clearly stemmed from the car's rear wing, and there was little Tsunoda could do to fix it. Even though Verstappen qualified on pole, which shocked both McLaren drivers, the comparison between the two cars wasn't straightforward because of the different setups. Kravitz pointed out, "I noticed a significant difference in the downforce levels between these two cars. Tsunoda's car has a much bigger rear wing, while Verstappen's is at a much shallower angle. This difference is intentional, as Christian Horner mentioned that the goal for Tsunoda was to have a more predictable car even if it meant sacrificing a bit of speed." It seems that Red Bull was cautious about letting Tsunoda run a setup similar to Verstappen's, understanding that the risks of doing so could be too great. Tsunoda seemed to be satisfied with how his car behaved throughout free practice, and even in Q1, he managed to put in some strong laps. However, once the pressure increased, it was clear that the setup wasn't enough to help him when it really mattered. The Japanese driver had hoped for a podium finish this season, but with such a tight grid and starting from 15th place, his best chance was to rely on unpredictable weather to shake things up and give him a shot at the top 10. There are several factors to consider when analyzing why Tsunoda's qualifying performance didn't meet expectations. Aside from the car's physical setup, there's also a psychological element. Before qualifying, Horner put much more pressure on Tsunoda than on Lawson, stating that Tsunoda's adaptation would be smoother. To make matters worse, Tsunoda had been promised that he would see out the season, but it seems those assurances didn't have the intended effect. Tsunoda, already under pressure, found it tough to deliver the performance Red Bull expected. When Horner spoke about Tsunoda's role in the team and the adaptation process, he mentioned, "I think Yuki brings valuable experience to the team. His knowledge is especially crucial in a season where development is key. That's why we made the decision early on." Liam Lawson could have adapted, but it might have taken him 5, 6, or even 7 races, or half the season. We don't have that time. Horner's words indicated that Tsunoda's experience was intended to give Red Bull a faster turnaround in terms of performance. Despite the early confidence in Tsunoda, it seems that the pressure on him only intensified. Meanwhile, Lawson, the Kiwi driver, has made it clear that his main goal is to prove that he belongs in the Red Bull fold. He's shown that the car suits him better due to its wider operating window. And while comparisons between the Fenza-based squad and the RB21 haven't been favorable lately, the fact that there is one of each car in Q3 while 2 are out in Q2 speaks volumes about the problems Red Bull is facing. When discussing his future with Red Bull and hinting at a possible return, Lawson said, "Formula One is unpredictable and things can change quickly. A year ago, I didn't have a seat. I was here, watching, wishing I could race. Now, I'm focused on proving I belong in this car." Lawson acknowledged that a return to Red Bull could be part of the conversation, but he's more focused on showcasing his skills and securing his place in the team. As the pressure mounts on Tsunoda, former F1 champion Jacques Villeneuve weighed in on the situation. He believes that Tsunoda is bearing the brunt of the strategy choices Red Bull made with the car's setup. There's no doubt that Tsunoda was tasked with delivering results in a short time frame, especially given the team's high expectations. As Helmut Marko pointed out, if the team doesn't see improvements within 5 races, they'll consider the season a loss. This looming pressure is only adding more tension to an already difficult situation for Tsunoda.